Hello, a very warm welcome to Granada Reports. We're live with the latest across the northwest.
Thanks for your company on the programme this evening.
Totally isolated, one of the saddest images of the pandemic. Finally, restrictions are lifted in care homes, but for many people, it's come too late.
We could never explain to her why we couldn't be there for her at a time when she needed us the most.
Hanging in the balance, will Greater Manchester's controversial clean air zone go ahead? We'll have the latest.
How one simple thank you note sent from Chester helped Harry escape the Nazis.
We'll be getting exclusive access into Blackpool's brand new attraction, starring none other than Peter Rabbit. Join us at the end of the programme.
And this little beauty is going to have to hold on tight as we head into the weekend. Some strong winds in the forecast over the next few days. Full forecast a little later on.
So please stay with us. First tonight, at long, long last, many people in care homes and their relatives can breathe a huge sigh of relief. It's been one of the saddest images of the pandemic, the people behind windows in care homes unable to have visitors.
From Monday, though, homes will be able to welcome unlimited visitors, giving relatives the human contact with their loved ones they so desperately need.
However, campaigners tell us that there still needs to be further change to rules so that when someone tests positive, it can avoid long cycles of isolation.
And for many families, it's come too late. Our correspondent, Elaine Wilcox, has tonight's top story.
Jean was known as a smiler by nurses, but her health deteriorated after care home visits were stopped and she died in August. We followed her family's Rights for Residents campaign, claiming restricting contact was inhumane. Allowing visits again from Monday is too late for many.
We could never explain to her why we couldn't be there for her at a time when she needed us the most. And we have tried to grieve since then, but trying to think of good memories now are totally replaced by those horrendous images of her crying, head in her hands, being totally bewildered by why she felt so abandoned.
Maple Lodge in Birkenhead has been closed to visitors for weeks after 2 COVID cases. Home isolation times will be half from Monday, from 28 days to 14, but not the 5 days as it is for staff. Care providers say the changes feel rushed.
While things are opening up again, we will have to be more vigilant in making sure that our residents are protected. We're going to have to make sure that even though in the outside world social distancing measures are easing, we're going to have to ensure that inside the homes that social distancing measures are adhered to, because at the end of the day, COVID still kills.
From today, face coverings are no longer legally required in shops or on public transport, although the advice is to wear them in crowded spaces. At this restaurant in Chorlton, they think the time is right to ease restrictions.
I've still got hand sanitizer on the tables. People can wear masks if they choose to. It's their choice, really. Same with the staff. Keep my screens in between my tables for the time being.
Medics urge caution too. The COVID wards at the Royal Preston Hospital are still full and the new Nightingale hub is almost ready to open. Those in critical care say Omicron hasn't gone away.
With the mask coming off, the disease will spread and rates will go higher again. And as we see rates go higher, a small percentage of those will need hospitalisation or critical care, and a proportion of those will be staff who then can't come to work and deliver the care that they want to deliver.
I think everybody's had enough of it now.
Still, I think it's just wise to be safe, because I think a lot of people have become sort of quite sad and fed up, and people need to get out and enjoy themselves.
In the event of a new COVID outbreak, campaigners want Gloria Law introduced, so those in care homes and hospitals have the right to have one nominated visitor. Elaine Wilcox, ITV News, Birkenhead.
In other news, the death of a 5-year-old boy in Oldham at the end of last year is being reviewed. Dylan Scanlon was found dead at a property in Limeside on New Year's Eve. A woman in her 30s was detained under the Mental Health Act. The review, which has been commissioned by Safeguarding Bosses, will scrutinise contact between several different organisations and Dylan's family.
A teenager has been charged with attempted murder after a stabbing at a school in Cumbria. A 15-year-old student was treated in hospital for multiple stab wounds after the incident at Walney School on Tuesday morning. A 16-year-old boy has appeared in court.
Well, next tonight, a story that hundreds of you have been in touch with us about over the last couple of weeks. It's the controversial clean air zone for Greater Manchester.
Yeah, thousands upon thousands have signed a petition expressing concerns about the costs of charges and problems in buying cleaner vehicles.
Well, tonight its future remains uncertain. The Mayor, Andy Burnham, says that he's met the government to argue for major changes to the scheme to help to protect businesses.
In a moment, we'll hear from one business owner who's told us it will cost him millions to comply with the new rules.
But before that, Tim Scott has the latest.
In Greater Manchester, in a bid to get pollution levels down, a clean air zone is planned that will come into force from the 30th of May this year. It means the worst polluting vehicles will have to pay a daily charge to travel in the zone, which covers all roads excluding motorways and major trunk roads in Greater Manchester, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The likes of HGVs and buses will pay between £7.50 and £60 per day. Vans and minibuses will be charged from June 2023. Private cars, motorbikes and mopeds won't have to pay. Government funding is available to help fit out vehicles so they conform to clean air standards. But there's been a deluge of complaints from businesses who say they simply can't afford the charges or the costs of adapting their vehicles. Leisure users too, like Mel Morris, have concerns. She uses a horse box to take her animals to shows and says she and others will end up driving further to avoid being charged.
I could go through Moberley, a conservation zone. I could go through Knutsford and get to the M56 that way. It's going to be more miles, it's going to cause more pollution, and the roads definitely aren't set up for HGVs, but I'll avoid a £60 fine. The framework and the thinking of this just does not work for anybody.
But this week, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham referred the scheme back to the government, saying that major changes are needed to protect jobs and businesses. And problems with the scheme were raised in Parliament today by Bury MP James Daly.
The only change needed is to scrap this scheme in its entirety. Based on flawed analysis and data, we are in the ludicrous position that in the most up-to-date with the most up-to-date air monitoring data for the borough of Bury, it shows no breaches of legal air quality limits anywhere, yet this draconian scheme is still scheduled to begin in May of this year.
Now both Andy Burnham and the Secretary of State will meet in the coming days to agree a way forward for the clean air zone.
Yeah, it is proven highly controversial, isn't it? Let's cross to Stockport, where we can join Victoria Grimes. They're really stuck between a rock and a hard place, aren't they, Vicky?
They certainly are, Gamal. As you say, I'm in Stockport tonight in Cheadle at Elite Services and Carsville Coaches. Now, this business is very well known in the area. It's been here for 41 years, passed down through generations. They've got 22 vehicles, and we're joined now by Sam Nixon. Sam, you're in charge here. Just tell us what it's going to cost you every time you want to take one of your buses off your yard here.
It's going to cost us £60 for each vehicle as soon as they cross the line.
And that's literally just to get them out of the yard,
them out the gates,
isn't it? And that's going to add up over the year to a lot. You've calculated how much you think it'll cost you?
£432,000 based on pre-COVID levels.
Well, that's an absolutely colossal amount. I mean, and what's that going to mean to your customers?
It's going to mean, unfortunately, the customers are going to have to absorb that cost. And there's going to be less school trips as a result, less customers travelling on our coaches on the home to school runs, which will mean more cars on the road. It's quite disastrous, really.
So you think that you do a lot of school runs, don't you? A lot of private school runs for various schools.
Yeah.
So you say that you think that less parents will pay to have the children on the coaches and they'll instead drive in their own private cars, which seems to defeat the object a little bit.
It does indeed, absolutely.
It doesn't it? And you're stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place because you either pay this £60 every time you take a bus out of the yard, or the alternative is going to cost you
£4 million.
£4 million.
Yeah, and we're still suffering the full effects of the pandemic. There's lots. There's no vehicles available. It's really awful times.
So £4 million. Have you got £4 million to renew your fleet?
Absolutely not, and unfortunately we're still suffering the effects of the pandemic. The coaches aren't out anywhere near as much as they should be. So really we can't go down the road of upgrading the fleet.
And you were saying as well there's issues with supply chain and actually being able to get hold of them even if you had the money to be able to do
exactly.
that.
And again, that's down to the pandemic predominantly, but there are massive issues with supply.
How worried are you about your business?
I'm really worried about our business, and I'm really worried about the people in it, and for our customers who will have to absorb the price. I don't think it's fair. It's not been researched, and I think the people in the know need to do some more research and look at the further implications.
Do you think both of your businesses can survive this move?
I think we'll have to survive, but I do think that it really needs looking at.
Okay, and what would your message be to those making these decisions?
I would ask them and beg them, please, to look at the bigger picture and look at the effect that having clean air will have on Greater Manchester and the people of Greater Manchester. I'd invite Andy Burnham, anybody in any office to come down, have a look and listen.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed, Sam. There's an invitation. Come down and have a look and see for yourselves. Back to you in the studio.
OK, Vicky, thank you.
Yeah, definitely not the last that we've heard of that, I can guarantee. OK, let's have a look at what's coming up on the programme.
Once, twice, 6 times a Latic. John Sheridan's back on the scene at Boundary Park.
And after that spectacular sunset across many parts of the region overnight last night, we had that wet and windy start this morning before things improved. A good dose of sunshine but some strong winds. Your full forecast into the weekend a little later on.
Now, we often hear stories about how important it is to be kind, but few to beat this one from a long time ago. It is the story of how a simple thank you letter changed the course of one little boy's life forever by helping him escape from the Nazis.
Yeah, Harry Kessler, who was born in Vienna, was with his parents on a steamboat on the Danube when purely by chance they struck up an unlikely friendship with a couple from Chester.
That thoughtful couple sent the Kesslers a note to thank them for their hospitality, not knowing years later it would allow them to escape persecution.
On Holocaust Memorial Day, Harry shared his incredible story with Sarah Rogers.
Vienna, gay city of waltz and song.
Not long after this footage was taken, the landscape of Vienna would change.
1938. The Nazis walked into Vienna and took over Austria, and Austrian Jews were the next to be persecuted, and we had to get out.
Harry Kessler's parents had all the documents they needed to escape, except one, an affidavit from the country they intended to go to. Incredibly, a chance meeting with a couple from Chester aboard a steamer years prior would change the course of their lives. A 4-year-old Harry climbed up onto the seat before his dad said,
"Careful you don't dirty that lady's dress with your shoes." And that lady said in rather poor German, no, that's all right, what a nice little boy. And becoming friendly with them, and my parents had taken them out over the weekend. When they got back to England, the lady, Mrs. Jones, wrote a letter. And she said, "I can the German not well write, but we think often about you and that so nice son."
And that so nice son was you.
Yes.
Digging out that thank you letter some 5 years on, Harry's father, desperate for help, wrote to Gladys and William Jones. "We'll do whatever you need," was the reply. They provided all the documents they needed and took them in.
Yes, that letter, I'm sure, saved our lives, and it emphasises how kindness to strangers can lead to such good things.
Many of Harry's family were murdered, but incredibly,
my grandmother survived to the end of the war in the concentration camp, but my father, who got a pass to get away and search through that concentration camp, and he found his mother there, and he brought her back to England. That gets me every time.
Harry, who now lives in Southport, is still in touch with the Jones family and doesn't take his life for granted for a moment. He's raised thousands of pounds for charity and has been awarded the British Empire Medal in the latest round of Queen's Honours. But his most important job, telling his story in schools and universities.
The story of the Holocaust has to continue to be told. It does prompt them to stand up and defend people of different faiths, of different colours, and not allow such a terrible thing to happen again.
Here's what's still to come on the ITV News at 6:30 with Charlie.
A plea to police for mercy from a man arrested after he tried to save a woman from being killed. The man drove his car into Yasmin Chakaifi's ex-husband as he was stabbing her to death, killing him. Now the driver wants police to drop their murder investigation. The surge in scams. Are we losing the fight against online text and phone fraud? Plus,
Essex girl, like, isn't it in the dictionary?
how Essex is trying to shake off its Towie image. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Never seen that programme, you know. Not the news, obviously, Towie. Now then, tonight's talking point was one that you really did choose for yourselves. I'm not surprised. How proud are you of your accent?
Very proud, we hope. There's nothing we love better on Granada Reports than hearing accents from right across our region.
Yeah, one person who doesn't, though, is Lord Sugar, who's criticised a drama for giving the lead character a Scouse accent.
Get back! I can't remember the last time I did something good.
Well, the star of The Apprentice says he and his wife switched off the new show starring Martin Freeman because they couldn't understand what he was saying.
Yeah, he was brilliant, though. And what other accent would he have as it's set in Liverpool? Well, there was no doubt that you wanted your say on this when we put the story on our website at itv.com/Granada.
Yeah, this one from Frank. He says, I'm not from Liverpool and I understand it. It could be because I pay attention.
Steve Cranshaw in Manchester, Martin Freeman's Scouse accent is described by those that would know Liverpudlians as perfect. And Patsy says it's one of my favourite accents.
Pat from Haywood agrees with Lord Sugar. Stopped watching it after the first night. Doing this all too often these days, she says.
William in Warrington says, I love listening to different accents. We're very lucky in the north. Accents can change from street to street in some towns.
And Alan from Glossop simply says, you guessed it, Sugar, you're fired.
Someone had to say it. If you hadn't, I think I might have done. Now then, next tonight we're going to celebrate everything Peter Rabbit. Not so much the old-fashioned version where he steals a few carrots from Mr McGregor's garden. These days he gets into far more trouble.
Yeah. This time he is much cooler. He's an animated Peter Rabbit who has his own TV show, movies, and now has his first ever tourist attraction that's completely dedicated to him on Blackpool's Golden Mile.
Yeah, our entertainment correspondent Caroline Whitmore went to take a look behind the scenes. Over to you, Cal.
Thanks, you too. Yes, I'm here in Blackpool at their brand new £1 million attraction, which has taken 18 months to get to this point. It's called Peter Rabbit Explore and Play, and we have exclusive access. Let's go on a run. What has gone into making this attraction?
A lot of time, effort and creativity. So here we've got the characters that has gone through 4 different occupations. So you've got the designers, joiners, painters, all the way through to the prop makers who do all the fiberglassing. So as you can see, it's not just straightforward off a 3D machine, even to the point of the grasses hand-painted.
Welcome to Peter Rabbit Blackpool, and you're actually our first visitor, so an extra special welcome.
Oh, I love it that I'm the first visitor. I love that. You're the general manager here, aren't you? And I guess it's quite interactive for all the, you know, the little people that you're aiming it at.
Yeah, definitely. It's been built to be an immersive experience, especially for 0 to 7 years old. And who doesn't love Peter Rabbit? And we're actually here in the borough, so it's all about bright colours and engagement. And these are some of the pieces of fruit that have been put for Benjamin and the rest of Peter's friends that they may have stolen from Mr McGregor's garden.
Stolen vegetables. vegetables, indeed.
Yes, and here's Mrs Rabbit's recipe, so I'll let you give it a go.
Can I
and
have a
see.
press? Can I have
Of
a press?
course. Hopefully you'll get it in the right order.
Touch of salt. Now, this is a real coup for Blackpool, isn't it, Stuart?
Definitely, it's the first attraction of its type. You know, Peter is a classic. Everyone knows about Peter Rabbit, and you know it's had many different versions. And this is the TV version, which is very popular at the moment. So Blackpool's all about family entertainment, and we're better to host this first attraction. And here we have Mr McGregor's garden. So we've got the slides, we've got the carrots, and all the different fruits where the children can really get on and explore. So if you'd like to go through the pumpkin, you're more than welcome.
I'd get stuck, Stuart. I'd get stuck. It does look fun, though.
It is, and it's really, there's lots of different areas within the attractions. This is Mr Fisher's Pond, and we really want the children to enjoy all the, you know, the games and the interactives. But it's about collecting stamps to get into the secret tree house. But you can welcome to give anything a go here.
Can I have a go on this here?
Yes, of course.
Oh, I love these.
Careful you don't get too wet.
Yay!
Yeah, I think you must try these. We'll see how musical you are with these reeds.
Oh, mystical,
beautiful.
mystical.
Yes, and also, because you were so good there, I think the lily pad bongos are a must for you.
Let's have a go. So, all musical. She's musical. Have I earned enough stamps to meet Peter Rabbit?
I actually think you have. So, shall we go to the secret tree house and see if he's there?
Let's go.
This is the secret tree house. And, of course, here's Peter.
Oh, hello, Peter. Oh, wiggling his bum. You look amazing for 120 years old, I have to say. Look incredible.
Yeah, and we're here in the finale space, and we're going to have actors in here, and it really will be a great end to the attraction. So we're really excited.
Oh, I'm excited for you. I know you've got 2 more weeks, haven't you? You open on the 12th of February.
Yep.
So best of luck, Peter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Love him.
I love a bit of Peter Rabbit. Kerry's got the weather.
Oh, I love a hot shower and a cold day, me.
And a minute shorter than usual.
What a legend.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello, very good evening to you. We did see some sunshine across the region today, a brighter start and a milder start to the day. But despite those sunny spells, there was a keen breeze really pegging back the feel of the temperatures. We got to nearly 12 Celsius across the region today. The average is about 7. It is slightly more changeable over the coming few days. So milder air by day, still with some chilly nights, but stronger winds, especially during the very first part of Saturday. And there will be further wet and windy spells as the weekend progresses. So high pressure just slips southwards slightly. We stay fairly mild for much of the weekend, but a couple of fronts coming in from the northwest will unsettle things at times, and then a colder, fresher feel by the time we reach Monday. So in the meantime, for this evening, largely dry and clear and chilly, and certainly in rural shelter we're looking at a frost overnight tonight. There'll be some low cloud hugging the hills as we head into the early hours. Most of us dry, definitely a chilly theme across most parts of the region for much of the night, but a breeze starting to pick up out towards the Isle of Man. There is sometimes as we head into tomorrow, 8:04 and 4:44. The best of any sunshine coming through tomorrow morning with a patchy frost, but cloud will tend to thicken from the west as the day progresses. So mostly dry, but can't rule out some light rain and drizzle at times out of any thicker cloud tomorrow. But a fairly dull second half of the day, and again temperatures maybe in 11 Celsius, so above that 7 degrees average for the time of year. But you'll see the winds starting to whip up, and that's all ahead of a pretty windy start to Saturday. We look to the north, a system coming down, could be gusts in excess of 50 miles an hour, gale force out towards the coast, but drier, clearer behind, and then the opposite, the reverse on Sunday. Take care.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Oh, hello.
Get him a towel.
Can't stop thinking about Peter Rabbit. I'm a massive fan of the theme tune. I'm going to watch it later on, I think.
Yeah, that animated version is so good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.